Mhm. And we're live. Thank you, thank you, thank you for everyone being here. Today, I am here with the amazing, dynamic, vivacious Raggeria Goddard. She is the senior innovation manager at General Motors. There's so many other things that this young lady does, but I was so blessed to be able to meet her at some mutual events that I attended while I was out traveling for Miami Tech Month. And most recently, we attended the Culture Shift event where different leaders were speaking about diversity, inclusion, innovation, STEM in their various fields of work. And I'm blessed enough to have Regalia here today just to share some of her wisdom, her knowledge, and we're going to talk about some things like venture capitalism. So I am super honored and excited to have you here today. So honored, Ragaria.
Thank you.
So just getting into it, and just to remind everybody, my name's Alana. I go by Afro Butterfly, and this is my channel, Digital Green Book. I'm co-owner with my business partner, Jalecia Ball, and we just want to put more conversations like this in front of you, where we're trying to get information out about what's going on around you, conversations that are happening around you that you might not be aware of. So today's today's conversation has a few different focuses to it. But the first thing I want to get into, aside from just giving you your flowers because you're such an amazing woman, Regaria, how did you get into the role that you're in now? And can you explain a little bit about what you do?
Sure. So my background is in finance. So I started off working in financial services. So I worked for several banks, and then I was recruited into General Motors, and I worked in our venture capital arm. Did that for about 5 years, and I moved over into our corporate development, mergers and acquisition group. And then I worked for our Maven, which is our startup that was inside of General Motors, and now I work in innovation. In my current role, what we do is we are looking for ideas that we can build into standalone businesses within inside the organization. So it's pretty much entrepreneurship, and so we're looking for those ideas as the automotive industry is disrupting itself. We're looking for those ideas that can sustain the business if we were not building cars. So just think of a hub of small businesses that are ran, and some of the business might stay inside, but there's also some that we might spin out. So one that we just spun out is Bright Drop, which is a e delivery service. So that's one of the things that have come out of our group in innovation.
I think that's so amazing because what I'm watching now, especially as we're coming out of the tail end of the panoramic, a lot of businesses sort of had to shift how work was happening. A lot more remote work was occurring. They really trimmed down the jobs industry to sort of only have the essential workers, people who physically had to be there, like in GM, physically who people have to physically come in and build cars or physically come in and build tech and things. Yes, they still had to come in, but now we have a lot more data, a lot more coders, a lot more graphic designers, and that doesn't have to be as physically present in the job. And other businesses as well went more remote, and that sort of highlighted that jobs are becoming much more technical. What would you say with your role specifically? How are people in the STEM space directly tied into what you do?
Um, So I guess let's start with we're innovating all over the org, and what we try to do is find things that are tangent to our business, but not directly core. So not something that we ordinarily would touch. We look for the things that are kind of on the outside parameters, and that could be anything. Sustainability is a really huge focus for us, especially as we move toward this AV EV world. Part of the sustainability part is the emissions that the gas engines are emitting in the air. So I think we were everything we do. I think those STEM is somewhere if it's not front and center, it's in the background. And to your point, from a virtual environment, I think traditionally our culture had not been where we hire people that we wanted people we love FaceTime, like, so we're that type of environment where it's FaceTime, you're interacting with the leaders. But given the nature of what has happened with the pandemic, I think what a lot of us have discovered, a lot of industries have discovered, is we can still run our business and we can do it from a virtual perspective. And that has opened up the landscape of like who we will hire now, right? So you're not requiring people that may be on in a coastal city where it's warmer to move to a Michigan or Detroit where it's, it could be, it's cold majority of the year. Like, 6 months out of the year is pretty much cold. So or probably lower than that actually, but I think in terms of like our ability to employ people and attract talent to our company, the pandemic has actually broadened that opportunity, and so we're seeing people that are coming in from all over the place. Like now, and as we move into this more of a tech environment, we're seeing that we are hiring some of these Silicon Valley types, like these tech or entrepreneurs that once worked, ran their own business or worked in a startup. Now we're looking to employ some of those same people with those talents as we look to try to do these startups inside our own company.
I think that's amazing that the company's being that forward thinking. And I think your role specifically is so interesting. Segueing just for a minute, one of the key highlights in your LinkedIn profile is that you're an advocate for venture funding and venture capitalism. I do want to get back to the GM portion of it, but I think to give some context to this conversation, when I was chatting with different people in my community, a lot of them really didn't understand what venture capitalism is or what's the difference between a good venture capitalist and a bad venture capitalist. So, in your own words, how would you sort of define what a venture capitalist is?
So a venture capitalist invests in your business. They usually ask for a piece of your business in return for money that they give you to help you scale your business. Um, I think when we talk about venture capital in the Black community, um, one is kind of non-existent. So like the percentage of, like, I think as Blacks, I think we get less than 2% of capital dollars that are employed, which amounts to, I think in 2021 is like 4.4 trillion dollars that of missed opportunity, because we traditionally don't they like they don't um, we don't yield that investment. But what it does is venture capital is a lot of times sometimes it's seed funding. Like some companies, some people, when they start their businesses, they find money from friends and family. They call that bootstrapping. So you bring in money from friends and family, and you pull together enough of the business to get to a point where you're generating some revenue, and then you start looking for other capital. So oftentimes of the Black community, we have challenges finding money to bootstrap. We usually can't go to the bank to get it. And those are two conduits to get you to venture capital, because venture capital oftentimes is, you have a proof of concept. So trying to get to that point usually requires some type of funding to get to a point where you can show like this is the idea, this is the business or the product or service or whatever it is that your business is. You need some money to get there, and then once you get to a point where you're trying to get scale. So like I'm going to use the example of like Damon John, who created FUBU. So like he had a vision. He started to create these shirts, and then he once he got to a point where the orders were so big, he needed someone to invest in his company, because he needed one to get more material to build more product. He needed to produce in mass. That's where venture capitalists come in, like recognizing there's an opportunity here that your business has the stamina to be, to either get acquired by some major company or, IPO and become its own standalone business. That's why venture capital will invest in you, because they see potential in like where your business will go. And so like going back to that percentage of capital that we don't get, I think oftentimes, if the venture capitalists don't look like you or don't understand your product, oftentimes that's why the funding never makes it to us, right? So if I'm pitching about a woman's product to a room of, white guys, it might be hard to make a compelling case of why they should invest in it. If it's a feminine product, they totally don't get it. It's over their head, and vice versa, right? If they were pitching to me about something, I don't know, something that I don't understand, I probably will pass on it. And so that's the problem why we need more diversity in venture capital, not just getting the access to the dollars, but we need the decision makers to change. So people that are on the other side of that table. So when a woman pitches a feminine product to me, I totally get it, and I have the capital to invest in it, and then I start to change that. There's a paradigm shift, and that 2% or less than 2%, now that number goes up.
I think that was so well put. And even in that explanation, it brought out a few more things to me that I hadn't even been considering. Recently, I went to the Afrotech conference, which was amazing in DC, and they're having another one in November, which I'll be attending as well. And in that room, there were about 4 or 5 venture capitalists that they brought to speak to this room full of young tech innovative startups and to really connect people with the idea of, okay, you have a great idea, and we're so used to getting it out of the mud, so to speak, or like you say, bootstrapping to get the funds in an already financially tight community, that we don't know where to look or know how to consider other sources of
Mm-hmm.
funding. So that's where venture capital comes in. What are some alternative ideas that young startups might need to consider if the bank is telling them no, if there's no rooms for pitches for them to go to? What should somebody consider if they're looking for capital for their small business?
So if you're at a point where you're still very beginning stage, so you don't have a proof of concept and you're not revenue generating, it might be like angel funding. So their angel funding is like one click down from venture capital. There's usually a little more leniency in terms of like how much of the business have been bought up, but it has to be a business. It can't just be an idea. You got a proof of concept. Another thing is like pitch competition. So a lot of times, startups will join these pitch competitions or accelerators, and at the end of the program, the accelerator program, you usually pitch, and then there's probably some dollars that are generated that way. So a lot of, and it can be 100,000, it can be 500,000, sometimes it's $1 million. It all depends on what programs. But there are various programs out there that you can be a part of that can get you started. Once you and I hate to say it, but it's kind of true that once you win one pitch competition, it kind of like it's almost like putting you on a map, right? So like your the name kind of is almost is PR. So the name starts to echo, the product starts to echo, and some of these venture capitalists or investors might take some credence in like, oh, okay, if they got funded from this program, it's probably something here. So I think there's a little bit of like there's a you get into a groove or a rhythm, and once you win one, it kind of sets the tone. Not always, but that is one thing that I've seen kind of a reoccurring theme when someone pitches and they win a competition. That it kind of opens the door for more opportunity for funding.
That's a really cool concept, because that concept of the accelerators were recently introduced to me during Miami Tech Month. I'm coming from a healthcare background, and I've transitioned into trading and really invested myself into the STEM space and taking time to learn about Web3 development from a front end development sort of standpoint. And I'm like, every day I'm learning something new,
And
because I truly want to understand the fabric of this space and what it means, because Web3 is not going anywhere. That's decentralized wallets, that's less of the KYC process or them having to know you on the web to use currency and to get involved and buy things. We're already playing with Web3, but nothing's, in my opinion, fully fleshed out yet. Everything's in
yeah,
test mode.
yep,
So to start talking to coders and developers who already are so deep state in it, like learning specific coding languages like Python, and they're really trying to build out and flesh out what Web3 will look like. That's sort of where I'm trying to position myself right now, or not trying. That's where I'm positioning myself right now, because I want to be innovative in that space
yeah,
and having conversations with individuals like yourself that are looking at people who are thinking like that, or companies that are trying to position themselves so they're on the front end of Web3. They're on the front end of, okay, maybe there's talent that we haven't tapped into in the other communities, and maybe we can pipeline some of that into our company. So
Yeah.
before we came on this stream, we were having a conversation prior to about seeking talent. So what do you think GM, in light of what we were talking about with venture capital, what do you think GM is looking for when it comes to young, innovative people in this sort of wheelhouse that we're discussing?
It's very interesting. So like, we have been looking for people in innovation, and that's kind of the common conversation is what are the skill sets that are needed in innovation? And it's really an array of skill set. Obviously, we love to see people that have some type of entrepreneurial background, like they've worked in a startup or they've studied entrepreneurship or something along those lines. But also, there's so many other things. It's like being open minded. When you work in a large corporation, you have to have great communication skills, because you have to pitch to the inside and the outside. Your customer is on both sides. So being able to kind of thread that needle and being able to work on both sides of the fence is really important. Um, and then you got to be scrappy. So I think that's another thing, is that the thought is, if I do some type of empathy interview and I say I'm from GM, I think the instant thought is that we got this open purse, this open wallet. But no, we're scrappy too, because we're trying to rinse and repeat this model. So just like any other startup, we're trying to understand the market. We're trying to get there. We're trying to move fast, and we're not trying to spend a lot of money while doing so. So it's like having, it's kind of a well-rounded person. It's a very diverse skill set. And as I think about the team that we're developing now, we probably have about 4 or 5 people on a team. Now we're kind of filling the gaps. So like, I have a finance background. I've been at GM for a while. So when we bring somebody else in, it's probably not going to be a finance person, right? We're bringing in somebody that has a strong tech, and you might be an engineer on this side, and somebody might be strong in IT. Like we're trying to create a well-rounded team, and ultimately what we're trying to do is we want to be able to fail fast. We want to look at something pretty quickly and say, no, that's not going to work because X, Y, and Z. We don't want to spend weeks or months on something and then get to the point of realizing that it doesn't work, because we had to go outside our team to find out, to validate if this could work. So it's an array of skill set. And the other thing I'll say is, like, I'm even seeing, which I don't think GM had ever considered doing, but like in this innovative space, we're taking a very innovative approach. Like I ran across a couple people that don't necessarily have a degree. They've worked in a startup environment, and so we value that type of skill set. So I think we're really taking a lens outside of ourselves and trying to figure out, like, what is it that we need to give us great footing in this space. I mean, this global innovation group has been around for about 3 years, going a little over 3 years now, and so we're trying to learn what we don't know along the way as we innovate and try to cement some market share in this industry.
I think that's amazing as well, because I've been hearing that more lately. A lot of the conversations I've been having with people who have pivotal roles like you do in these large scale companies, because that's one thing Alana's gonna do. I'm gonna pick people's brains. I love having conversations about things like that. And I'm finding that now in this landscape, especially post 2020, they're looking for less of a degree situation and more people who have done UX boot camps, more people who at least have been in 3 or 4 fields and can bring a very diverse vantage point to whatever they're applying to. So I'm really curious to see what this landscape will shape into in the next 5 to 10 years, or even soon. Things are accelerating, in my opinion, faster than they used to, because that's what technology does. It
And we're
leans.
virtual. We're virtual, so like that speeds it up automatically, right? Like, people are making venture capital investments and have never set foot inside the company or seen the product. Like, it's the
Wow.
pitch, and they make the investment. In a pandemic, you couldn't, but still money was being employed, right? So clearly people writing checks and not necessarily seeing the business or traveling to meet the founders in person.
That makes
And
sense.
the one other thing I want to touch on, because you even mentioned this when you said you were working on getting up to speed with Web3,
Mhm.
for our communities specifically, I think we're a very smart creed, and we're self-taught in a lot of areas. Um, but when these type of jobs come available, we don't apply, and we check the box we check the box and not let them tell us no. Like
Mhm.
sometimes you don't necessarily know what a company is looking for, but if you've been working, if you've been gaming and you understand the undertwinings of gaming and the IT back platform, like that's a skill set. And that's something that companies are, not just us, but companies are hiring for. And so don't answer the question, let them tell you no. I know no is a hard thing to hear, but all you need is one yes. You might get 30 no's, but even in venture capital, you might hear 100 no's, but all you need is that one yes. That might be that $1 million check or 2 million, whatever you're raising. And so don't get discouraged by a no. You just gotta keep it moving. You don't hear no your whole life. Your mama been telling you no your whole life, or we'll see, or maybe not. So why are we acting brand new that like when somebody tell us no, like we're all in our feelings? Get over that. Keep it moving. If you got skills or you passionate about something, look, passion eats education all day long. Somebody went to school for 10 years, 4 years, whatever on something, and most people go to school and don't even practice in what they study, right? But when you're passionate about something, you know things inside and out. Like people are going, and I'm not advocating for YouTube education, but people go on YouTube and they can tell you just as much as somebody who has a degree. Like
Facts.
seriously. Um,
Facts.
so don't underestimate your skill set and what you worked at, or that your craft that you've been developing only because you're passionate, as being something that you can get paid for. When you think about blockchain, NFTs, the metaverse, these companies are hiring people. This is not a established industry. They're basically hiring people on the strength of like you have the ability, you can demonstrate the ability that you can learn, you're a quick learner, you're interested, you're passionate. That's what they're hiring on, because there is no track record. There
Exactly.
is one. And that's the same thing with tech. As tech is moving so fast, a lot of stuff there is no track record. Inside of GM, we're looking at various techs, and there's not necessarily a track record. Like we'll hire somebody that hints around to what we're trying to get to, but it's not established. So we're just banking on what they said they can do, what their resume said they can do. That's no different than me saying I can do it.
Show me, don't snow me. Hey. And it's so interesting, especially over the last 4 years. I spent a lot of time really deeply educating myself about the cryptocurrency space, blockchain technology, and just getting a solid foundation in that, which is why I became so passionate about going to these different conferences and talking to people who create crypto projects, talking to people who've made entire platforms based on their cryptos and their white papers and the communities that they've built and people who believe in what they're doing. And just the merging of those two things is so beautiful to me. I'm addicted to crypto. Addicted to it. um but the one of the things I really want to circle back to is something else we talked about before we started the stream, is your mentorship and the fact that there's so many young women inside of this space or outside of the space who really don't know what they need to know. It's like when people want to elevate themselves, you seek guidance, you seek a mentor, you seek a teacher, but if they don't know that they need that or don't even know where to look, it's like a catch 22 in a way. So what have you found in the time that you started mentoring? What's been some of the most fruitful things for you as a mentor, and what do you find your mentees really need inside of this space to succeed and excel?
I would just say, operating, one, with boldness, two, just a level of confidence. If you never ask, you're never received, right? And sometimes you don't want to ask a dumb question. The dumb question is a question you don't ask, right? Like if you're looking at Web3 and you don't know you don't know something, how are you going to figure it out, right? Either you're going to keep digging, but there's still going to be something that you almost need somebody to explain to you, and you got to be unafraid to ask the question. When I met you at the Bitcoin conference, and there were several people that were like, they were digging their heels in. You can tell they were new, but they were asking questions, and they were not afraid to ask the question. And that's where we have to get to. The pride, put it behind you. The pride can show up once you get there, once you commanding it and telling other people what to do or how to do it. But we have to elevate ourselves from a confidence level. Because one thing I'll tell you is our counterparts, they'll walk in a room with their chest stuck out and don't know nothing. Do you hear me? You know me? Do you hear me?
You said it, not me. You said it, not me. You said it.
I'm down here in this environment. There's a lot of new people, new startups. There's capital coming into this area. And if you've been in the area, you don't have to say 2 words. You could just sit and listen. And you know who knows what. Sometimes they can talk a good game. But if you listen long enough, they'll tell you. But guess what? Ain't no shame. Ain't no shame. They'll come and they'll act like they are, Elon Musk. And come to find out, I just leave it there.
Have you seen that meme where the guy is standing inside of this cabinet full of wires? It's like that guy, he's standing inside a cabinet full of wires. He just looking confused. He got his hands on his hips, looking like, yeah, I faked my interview, but I'm here. I guess we got to figure it out.
Look, I've worked with a lot of people that come in with an impressive resume. And once they get in, you like, for really? Seriously? That's very interesting. Like, there's a lot of question marks. But the difference is they're given the benefit of the doubt. But so what? So we already know. You gotta work twice as hard. You gotta be twice as good. You already know that.
Yes.
But walk in your stardom. Walk in your confidence. If you know you put in the work, should nobody be able to say something to shake you? If they do, that's an internal thing. That's their stuff, not your stuff. You shouldn't be internalizing their stuff. If you know your stuff.
That's a word right there. That's a sermon right there. Because one of the things when I'm mentoring women, the biggest thing that I hear that people experience, I mean, both genders experience it, but imposter syndrome is a big thing for women, especially approaching anything near finance or STEM or anything like that. And I've been very transparent that I'm on my journey of increasing my confidence and my belief level. That was something that I had to work on from a very young age, and I'm still growing in that way. So it's interesting trying to mentor people through things that you're working on yourself, but I think that you usually gravitate people towards you who can resonate with those things inside of you. So what was something that you did to increase your belief level in yourself?
There's a part. I understand the label of imposter syndrome, but I struggle with putting labels on stuff. Right? I got anxiety, or I got this problem. Don't claim that. Don't bring that into your world. What you speak is power. If you saying I got anxiety, you got anxiety. You say I'm the smartest person in the room, you're the smartest person in the room. If you say I'm not, you are. Whatever you say you are, you are. And so I struggle when we cling to these titles of something, especially when it has a negative connotation. Especially us. Like we have enough that we pull enough of a wagon of stuff that we have to pull. Don't add to it. Don't add to it. And I think, I'll tell you, one of the things that I had to do that really made me like, wow, okay, like I have made some achievements. I had to stop because I've been with this company for a long time at this point. And so I I've worked in 4 different roles, so it's almost like 4 different companies because they, they're the roles kind of merge into each other, but not really. They're very separate, and it's a very different skill set that I've learned, and that's what have kept me here is because every time I move, it's a new skill set. It's something else that's for me to get. It's not just like, complacency or just chilling. Like I have had to rise to the occasion in some of these roles because they're again they're a different skill set that I maybe have not nurtured that muscle, but
Right.
I can do whatever. I
Right.
can do whatever I want. All of us, we can do whatever we want. You just got to put your mind to it. But
Right.
one of the things I had to stop and do is I had to rewrite my resume. Even though I wasn't leaving the company, I had to rewrite my resume. When I rewrote my resume, I was like, wow, is that me on paper? But we tend to forget, right? When you do something day in and day out, it's clockwork for you, but it is a value proposition for your next step in the world. Anything you've done, you're the expert in that thing. If you've been doing
Hmm.
it for any good amount of time, and don't let it be something you can do with your eyes closed, you're the expert. Let somebody come ask you a question. You can tell it to them frontward, sideways, upside down, in your sleep. But we and not just us, but a lot of times we underestimate those skills because we're doing them every day. And so don't play yourself. Go out and look at these job boards. Go out and look at what other people are doing and compare your skill set. You'd be surprised if you just kind of keep reevaluating what you are and what you do. And another thing is you need to keep a log of all the stuff that you're doing because you will forget on a day-to-day basis when you're working and you're pulling from all different, parts of your life. Probably some things from college, some things from just life, some things from your previous job, some things from your current job. When you put all that together, like one, it's a unique skill set because nobody has done everything that you have done, and two, it's powerful.
Hmm.
It's so powerful, and we can't forget what we're doing and where we came from and how we're doing it. And nobody's resume will ever match your resume
That's
unless
true.
unless somebody copied your resume.
That
But
part. No, and I'm working more on that too. Because that's a common thing that I've heard even for myself. Like I need to give myself more credit, or I need to list what I'm doing more. Because something that was taught in nursing, I did nursing for over 13 years, and you're taught deference. Like I think it's beneficial because when you're in a room and you don't know something, you're like, okay, well, I'm not trying to kill this person. Let me speak up and say, excuse me, I don't know how to do this particular skill set. Somebody step in, please. But at the same time, it's like when you do master something like that, there's that etiquette in nursing where it's like see one, do one, teach one. So like very quickly we want to get people into their skill sets because if you let the fear of something get a hold of you, it'll just keep you from doing something that you could be the most phenomenal instructor at. Um, I found myself doing all kind of procedures I never envisioned myself doing in that span of time, which is why I jumped headfirst into crypto. Like at first I was a little apprehensive of it, but I'm like, I have a gift for explaining things. It is my responsibility to dive into this head first, or even when speaking to people. Like I love having conversations, and I think these conversations are so important.
And that's
um
what I was just gonna say. When you say nursing, I think the first thing somebody thinks about is, oh, you have a medical background, you know the terminology, so you're smart from a medical standpoint. But the part that gets missed is you are a people person. You're dealing with people day in and day out. Communication skills, not everybody have it, but most do, right? And so you're communicating with people. So like that whole and you're teaching people as a nurse, you're giving orders of like, okay, this is what your diagnosis is. This is what you need to do. So you're teaching somebody like how to care for themselves. And those are the type of skill set that I'm saying. You do something day in day out, you forget about that communication and that personability side, right?
mm,
And those are the things we have to take a step back and say, oh, because you probably didn't even think like, oh, that you probably didn't think that you like to teach is relating to your nursing, but it is,
mm.
and maybe you did, but I'm just saying like we
No, I
forget
didn't.
those additional skills that translate into something else that we like. Part of that might have been part of the reason you went into nursing in the first place. You like to deal, you like people, you know.
Well, that's a work in progress too. I have this very interesting dynamic with people. Sometimes I say humans be humaning because, but yeah, I do love people and I really want to see all people elevate, but I have a particularly soft spot for my community because I see so much talent and potential here. And just like even something that could seem as innocuous as a kid who say the basketball hoop is broken at the court up the street and he fashions a new hoop out of some debris that's sitting up there. The mental dexterity that it took you to make a new hoop so you could continue playing basketball with your friends, that same mental dexterity is what they need in UX design, is what they need in, like, and I'm like, man, if these kids just had the opportunity, just the opportunity. And so that's why I want to have these conversations for people.
Yeah.
But so I think this was a phenomenal intro conversation into a lot of different things. What GM is doing, what you're doing with mentoring, uh, really helping people understand venture capital. Um, so I do sort of want to wrap it here. But before you go, what would you say is one thing that you, Raggeria, are still wanting to work on and see yourself elevate in as a skill set?
For me, I think I think I have gained an array of skill set over my career, and I've worked in banking and I've spent a good amount of time in automotive, and now for me it's about impact. Like
Mhm.
it's how what kind of impact can I have for my community? How do I lay the foundation for those behind me? How do I elevate those that are already there? Because it can be fatiguing, right? In some of these roles, you feel like you're working hard and you're not getting there. How do I help you get to the next level, right?
Yeah.
Um, my calendar can be really crazy some days. But if somebody that from my community reach out to me and say, "Hey, I'm trying to understand innovation," I'm gonna make the time. Or like I was in a grocery store the other day, and this young lady asked me about, I think I had some workout gear on, and she started talking about how she wants to design workout gear, and
Mm.
I think I talked to her for 30 minutes because I wanted to encourage her. If that's what you're thinking, then you should very well do that. And so it's those type of things that I feel like I think it's like we're always kind of wandering, or we do these things like you use the example of the guy on the basketball court. We do these things and we don't think twice about it. But I want us to click up that next step forward. So
Yeah.
if I can do this, then I should be able to do that, right? Or I just think the world is your oyster. You just got to know, how to get started and where to go and who to talk to, and just keep going. It's tiring, but it's tiring on both. It's just as tiring if you don't do it,
That
right?
part.
So like you like so either you're gonna do it and just keep working at it, or you're gonna do nothing and be frustrated.
Mm,
So
that part.
impact is huge on my list. I want to
Mm,
solve for or help solve for this venture capital issue, this gap. Like
mm,
I need the world to know how resilient of a people we are. I need the world to know how smart we are. I need the world to know that our numbers are better. When we
ooh,
start startups, our numbers are better. Our revenues are better in a shorter amount of time. I don't know what else I need to tell you,
let's
or why you
go.
should fund me. I don't know what else I need to tell you.
Mm. Y'all, if you're watching, I hope this is encouraging for you. There's a few terms that you can look into. Angel funding, if you're not quite at a space or a place where you can get inside of those rooms and pitch those ideas, it's probably easiest to go to those larger nexus cities because Miami's being really innovative right now about having hiring fairs, in-person meetups, and they literally tell you come as you are and we'll figure something out for you. But if you're not able to travel to somewhere like that, being in sort of inside of these sorts of spaces really helps. Reach out on LinkedIn, start connecting with people, start networking because sometimes it really is who you know. um, Definitely connect with me.
Coffee chats go a long way. a coffee chat go a long way. If you're interested in something or some person or some area and somebody's there that you think you can build a rapport with, just say, hey, I'm just trying to understand the space. Not I'm looking for a job. I'm just trying to understand. So to your point, LinkedIn is a great source for that. You can reach out to people, and I think, and if you could find some common link, you usually will get a response back. Like there is a little bit of a way to get in there, to wiggle in there, but just like you would do if you're at the grocery store, you try to get a question answered, you're gonna find somebody that you can find some common ground to get that question answered. It's the same thing.
Yes. So
So yeah,
definitely.
LinkedIn, like you said, accelerators are also your friend. If you're early on and you're trying to develop the idea, you're looking for a pitch, find some of these accelerators that help you along the path. At least get you directionally oriented, and then it probably will lead to some form of capital.
Yes, the two biggest accelerators I've recently seen myself, because I just learned about accelerators literally a few weeks ago. I went to one at Afrotech in Washington D.C. and they literally have venture capitalists sitting in the room like, pitch your idea, like come over here, pitch your idea. We're fast tracking people. And then they brought up different programs they had, be it like a UX accelerator or something like that. The next one that I'm aware of that's coming up is in November. So if anyone's in the Texas area, I believe it's in Austin. It's either in Austin or in Dallas, Texas. I'll post more information after this. But literally, Afrotech is holding another, I think it's a 4-day accelerator for people to get inside these rooms and connect and network with large corporations and people who are just connected.
And then
So,
there's Black Tech Week, which is in Cincinnati. And I
ooh,
don't know the dates. It's July, like the end of
ooh,
July. Um, and so that's all around tech. So there's always these different conferences, and um, there's like Black Ambition. That's another accelerator that helps you build up your business and your pitch, and also they have some funding as well. So it's Google can be your friend. Google can be your
okay.
friend.
I'm taking notes. Black Tech Week Cincinnati, and you said Black Ambition. Okay. Hopefully y'all take it. Man, my conversation's always lit.
I don't know if this has already passed, because you said Afrotech in DC, in the water, under the water with I think it's Pharrell, and that's in DC. Were they together or no? Because I feel like that's either it just passed or it's coming up.
I've heard of it, but I wasn't sure if it had already occurred, but I'm going to look it up.
Yeah,
All I know is Pharrell and water. Okay.
it's so crazy.
I put parallel. Lord. Okay, autocorrect. But y'all, this is the time, because I know there's so many people of the conversations I've had with individuals. They're sitting at home and all they can see is what's immediately in front of them, because they're trying to address that first layer of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. They're like, I need shelter, I need food, I get it. But if we can pause for a second and think outside of that and literally start thinking towards, hey, I might be a janitor right now, but I literally can overhaul my entire life and get into something that can pay me far better and give me far more flexibility and freedom. Like, don't ever underestimate yourself. Don't think that you don't have a skill set to do this. Exactly what Raggeria was saying earlier. So just stay tuned. I plan on having many more Facebook and YouTube conversations, because I've been doing them primarily on IG, but a lot of people were saying they didn't quite have the access to IG like that. So I'm going to try and split between there. But Raggeria, I am so honored and so grateful that you took time out of your day to sit and have this conversation with me. Y'all understand how busy this lady is? Y'all do not understand. And I'm just honored, very honored to even know you. So thank you.
Thank you. This was a great conversation. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So stay tuned. I will drop in Reggeria's LinkedIn on the post later if you want to check out her profile and attempt reaching out to her and just look at some of the interesting things that she likes and posts. And that's the best way to reach out to her. So thank you, everyone. Have a great
Thank
night.
you. Bye.